and I see the little girl swimming, and she's underwater for like 20 seconds, just swimming. But at one point, she just stops and like she's not moving. And naturally, I started taking everything out of my pockets, and I was like ready to jump in because of that trauma that I've seen, like so many baby deaths. I've seen so many infant deaths at work that I'm just like, this baby could have been saved, if somebody was just paying attention.
This is the Be Fearless podcast. Our mission on this podcast is to bring guests that go above and beyond and are relentless in their approach of making the world and their communities a better place. On today's episode, we speak with Danny Morales, a homicide detective for Miami-Dade Police Department. He talks to us about the struggles, the victories, and the feelings of what it's like being a homicide detective. He's also the founder of the Bleeding Blue Foundation, a nonprofit that raises money for police officers that have been injured or have passed in the line of duty. This is his story, and I'd like you to hear it with me. Thank you for coming on, Danny Morales.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mean, I didn't sleep last night, but I will go sleep after this. But it's an honor to be here, man. You guys are amazing people. The company's great. Since the moment I met you guys, it's been an uphill. So I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and look forward to just chatting with you and telling you more about what we do and why we do it.
Nice. So I think the best way to get started with this is you, right? And what drives you and what started your career in police, and why you were passionate about it. So how did you get started in that journey?
So my stepfather is a police officer. He's retired now from the city of Hialeah. He raised me, since I was young. I can't even remember the age, honestly. He taught me how to ride a bike and everything. I just learned recently, actually, that...
How to ride a bike?
No. That would be sad. I just learned recently that on my dad's side, my biological dad, my grandfather was in the military in Cuba, and his dad was a police officer as well. So it's like, as I do these podcasts and I talk about, the inspiration, it actually goes further than just my stepdad who raised me. And growing up, you would go to all these, different events, police rodeos, the law enforcement memorial for fallen officers, just hanging out at the station and, going to the gym or shooting at the range there in Hialeah. It was my world, Every Halloween I was a SWAT officer. It was just like, we know what Danny's going to be this year. And that's initially how it started, but it's kind of funny because at 18 years old, I had applied for the department, and it took me 3 years to even get an email back. So I kind of got a little discouraged there, and I pursued an avenue of pharmacy for a while. And one day I'm working in the pharmacy. I had already done my prerequisites to go to pharmacy school, and I get an email, and I was like, peace out.
So that the moment you received that email, you're like, this is where I need to be.
Yeah.
You knew that was your life mission.
Until I started doing push-ups at the academy, and I was like, dude, this sucks.
I'd rather be pushing pills than doing these push-ups.
I was like, counting by 5. All right, here's your prescription. I'm getting paid the same. I was like, why am I doing this? But I don't regret it, man. It was a blessing that I'll never look back to, honestly.
That's fascinating. It's fascinating that there's a lot of little kids that they dress up to be a SWAT officer, right? But like the moment you receive that email, you're like, this is what I need to do. Forget about the other thing was a pivot because I wasn't, I didn't hear from them, but now I'm ready to go. And within your 7 years of experience, right? Within your time within the force, what would you say is like the number one driver that keeps that fire in you to motivate you to wake up every day and keep doing, serving the community and doing what's best for you? Is there something that really stands out? Is it something that's dynamic? Like what is it that you think really drives you?
I gotta pay my bills. No, just kidding.
Hey, you heard it here first.
No, man. You don't do it for the money.
No,
we don't get paid well. You have to make a good salary in police work. You have to put in the hours, overtime, off duties, go work at the Hard Rock and do the Dolphins games and stuff like that. So it's definitely not for the money, but it's you actually do make an impact. There's a lot of people in our career that are just like, that's a typical question they ask you in the academy. Hey, stand up, introduce yourself. Why did you become a cop? Oh, I want to make change. And that's everyone's answer. But essentially, you do that on a day-to-day basis. At 22, 23 years old, I'm responding to people's houses on domestic violence and telling a grown man like, hey, don't hit your wife, or you need to leave the house, and they look at you like you're a jit, you're nobody, and you're changing somebody's life in some dramatic way that you've never met before. And that's fulfilling at the end of the day. You know, you might get those calls in between where you kind of get complacent or you get, you know, discouraged and you're just like, why am I doing this? Why am I risking my life? But that one call, maybe a month that you respond to, that you actually make a change, it means the world to us. And the camaraderie that we have in police work is, you know, insane. You can literally hate the person next to you personally, but you go to a call and you're just like, you know, even pulling up here, there was like 15, 16 cops outside. Those guys are all working together for that one common goal, and that's a good feeling too.
That's a super good feeling.
Yeah.
It seems to me like it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
You know, that you have those reminders along the way. It's like, this is why I'm here. This is why
absolutely.
I'm doing it, and it really does make a difference, right? Like every single person that's aligned with a common goal of creating a better society really does make a difference.
Absolutely.
You know, and I thank you for your time and your energy and your effort. It's greatly appreciated. Yeah. You know, I was born and raised here, so seeing people that are passionate about being honest, hardworking, and, you know, are watching over us and protecting us, like, that's something that means a lot to me. You know, as a citizen of Miami, let's call it. I want to get into the challenge, right? Like, what would you say is the most challenging thing about your line of work? What is the thing that's like, man, you know, and we don't have to go too far in depth and throw anybody under the bus.
No names.
But what's something that's like, you know, this is frustrating. You know, this is something.
I'd say it's like our image, right?
What do you mean by that?
Like our public image, and it's frustrating sometimes that you put in all these hours, you're not home with your family, you're missing holidays, you know, you're working late hours and you're not getting to sleep with your significant other and stuff like that, and all for negative attention that we get on the media and stuff like that, right? And I say that because it's in every profession. I worked in a pharmacy, I worked in the medical field. It's corrupt. And in any line of work, you know, sales, you got people stealing stuff. You know, car dealerships, there's probably people on the back end, you know, working with criminals to steal cars. You know, like in every line of work, there's negative attention. It doesn't get the spotlight like we do. And to have the public's backing is huge. You know, to walk down the street or directing traffic during a hurricane, while you're home with your family all boarded up, we're in the middle of the street making sure that everything is okay. And to get somebody to come and bring you a glass of water and just be like, officer, I appreciate you. It just, bro, that goes a million times. Like, it just uplifts your spirit and reminds you of why you're doing this. You know, so I'd say one of the challenges that personally, like, that affects me is seeing those, you know, there's always a bad apple on every tree, right? And when we get that negative attention from someone that, you know, failed to do something, or, you know, they let their anger get the best of them and it was like a negative media attention, it affects us as a whole. And that is not the whole. You know, that we just have a job that you know, you have to be passionate about, and that passion brings feelings and emotions. And, you know, we are human beings at the end of the day, and we have personal experiences at home that sometimes we bring them to work, and that might reflect on your work, you know, whatever your work product, right? And that makes negative media attention. It blows up in everybody's face. So then you're walking down the street and then you'll be like, oh, you're just another pig, just like that other guy in the news last week. You know, and it's literally nationwide. You know, you can have something going on in Boston where, you know, those George Floyd incidents happen in another state, and then now you have protests down here in Miami. What do we have to do with that?
Right,
you know?
right. It's a completely different department, completely different people.
But it's police in general are just generalized, you know?
And it's hard, right? Because the protectors have to be the hardest, right? They're perceived as the strongest, right? The authority. But as a community, I have to admit, we need to have more empathy, because, like you said, they're people, right? They're names. They're people's sons. They're people's brothers. They're people's daughters, and they go through a lot of experiences where you know, people may not be kind, and automatically, I've seen a lot of videos, traffic stop, like, you name it, right? And the first thing that people do is act super defensive, right? And they start giving attitude, and they start doing this, and it's like, what type of outcome are you expecting to get from that? I mean,
I saw a video the other day that it was literally, they were trying to give him a gift certificate, and they pulled him over, and they were like, here's $100 to Walmart, and the guy lost it. Why are you pulling me over? It's to give you a gift card to Walmart, you know? Because it's like you just see those lights and sirens, and you're that's a snap.
It's like a
You're just
default.
like, yeah, all right, like you said, you just get defensive, and you're just like already searching for your license, and then let me find this and whatever it is, and then you're just like, oh damn, the cops pulled me over. What a waste of my time. I just paid for your groceries.
And you're arguing about it.
Yeah. Like, okay, you know. So it's sad that that's the world that we live in, you know, but you know, we have to make that change within ourselves. We have to find people that have that common ideology, that are comfortable doing things like this and talking, and then just, you know, showing that we are just human beings, you know. And at the end of the day, we put on a uniform. That is the profession that we chose. And the same way you go to work every day, I go to work every day, and then I go home. And we're just normal people, you know, that you can talk to at a restaurant, or, you know, if you just want to go and grab a drink afterwards, whatever it is, you know, we're human beings.
100%. 100%. I want to shift a little bit into your specific line of work, because you're in the homicide department, right?
Yeah. Been there for I'm starting my 4th year now in homicide.
So this is your 4th year.
Yeah.
So it's a little challenging for me to comprehend what that means,
Okay.
right? So if you were to kind of walk me through a day-to-day, right, what does a day-to-day in homicide look like?
So it's a lot of paperwork, like a glorified secretary. So obviously we handle death investigations within the county, and that can go anywhere from a natural death to, you know, to a murder, accidental cases where someone slips and falls or falls off of a building, like at work, industrial incidents, suicides, overdoses. That pretty much covers all the deaths there. We respond to every single case, and you know, that goes from anything as documenting the crime scene. You can go to making next of kin notification, manipulating the body to make sure there's no injuries or anything of foul play, and, you know, transporting that body to the medical examiner's office. The following day, you're responding to the medical examiner's office to, you know, attend the autopsy, speak to the doctor, check out what the findings are, so now you can relay that back to the family. Sometimes you get a little bit more in depth with the family as far as like funeral arrangements and stuff like that, helping them out with, you know, resources that are available by the state of Florida. And, you know, sometimes it's just not that easy to find a family member. So now you're doing a background investigation on, you know, who this person is. Maybe you don't have an ID on him. You're doing fingerprints, you know, facial recognition to try and identify this person, to then identify their family and realize that they're out of state. Now you're making contact with another police department. And all that, then you write a report.
And then you write a report about your findings.
That's a basic case, right? You know, a homicide investigation is a lot more intricate. You know, the documentation of a homicide, of a murder scene is, you know, insane. You're documenting anything from like where the casings were, what the distance was from, you know, point A to point B. You're doing area canvases for surveillance footage, interviewing witnesses that might have information, following leads that just come from, you know, Crime Stoppers, a community that wants to help. And sometimes those put you in little rabbit holes that take you completely off the right direction, and now you have to center yourself and go back to where, you know, where the evidence leads you. And you're meeting with the state attorney's office, and, you know, hey, do we have enough evidence to arrest this person or not? You know, what do we need to, you know, to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt? And it's, you know, sometimes these cases take a week, sometimes it take a year and a half, and sometimes you can't close them, you know, and you're just going for, I have a case right now since my first case that I can't close, and that drives me insane.
I was going to say that must have like a deep effect on you, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because the guy has no family. He was a homeless male. He's actually he wasn't the best citizen. You know, he's been arrested over 40 something times, and, you know, homeless guy out of the city, and gets killed and dumped in a nursery, and, you know, try to find a family member. We found like a distant brother from Cuba, and we couldn't, you know, he didn't want anything to do with him. So now it becomes like a state case. The state takes the body. And at the end of the day, that's still my victim. No matter what he's done, you know, somebody out there killed him, and it's not about the guy that passed away, it's about the guy that killed him. You know, get that guy off the street. So, you know, it does eat me alive sometimes. Sometimes I'll go into this rabbit hole. I have the case file at home, and I just sit there sometimes, and I just like, what did I miss? You know, let me refresh my brain a little bit. Maybe I learned something new throughout there's 3 years that I have, you know, I've been a detective, and I can, maybe I missed this on this case. Let me look it over. And sometimes you just got to give the case file up to somebody new and get a fresh set of eyes.
Fresh eyes.
Yeah. So there's a lot of detail that go into it, a lot of documentation. It's definitely not for everybody, you know, touching the bodies, the smell, you know, the insect activity.
I was gonna say over time that you kind of distant, like you kind of grow numb to that, right? Like in the beginning, I'm sure it was very impactful, and then after time, it's like it's another one, right?
Yeah. So at this point, you're just going through the motions. Like you know what you have to do. Some cases are a little more emotional than others. As far as like murders, when you get a true victim, you know, a young girl walking home from school, you know, and she gets robbed and killed, like that's a true victim. And you know, she's just an innocent person. Or you have like a baby that drowned, you know, like those are the ones that kind of affect you the most.
That's hard.
But other than that, you know, you're just going through the motions, and it's just, unfortunately, it becomes just another case. And I say that, you know, lightly, because we still do everything we can, you know, for those cases. So
I want to pry a little bit if I can.
yeah.
Do you have a support system that you can talk to and get those things out when you feel that way?
Yeah, so thankfully, one of my good friends, and she's my partner at work, we have a very open dialogue as far as like, hey, I just went to this call and, you know, I'm messed up. You know, my family supports me, obviously, like they know the job. My stepdad did it for a very long time, and he kind of like lives through me, so he's constantly like, hey, dude, like, tell me about this case, you know? And he just wants to like, but I think he does that for those intentions of like, you know, making sure that I'm good. And thankfully, our department has, you know, psychological services and stuff like that. And even if you don't want to go to those services by the department, there's so many resources out there.
Because I can imagine that that's difficult to go to the services of the department, right?
Absolutely.
You kind of have to become vulnerable to something that you may not feel like is wholeheartedly clean, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean to say that it's corrupt or anything. I'm just saying, like, to open up to that level to a place that you work. I could see how that could be a little bit difficult and not really like something that many people would want to do.
Yeah, the scare is always going to be that, like, what if this gets out? You know?
Right.
Like, we're sitting here in confidence, right? Just us two. And what if she goes and tells, or he, the therapist, goes and tells their partner, and their partner tells somebody else. And then little by little, you start figuring out who this person is that was vulnerable to you, and that information gets out there. That's always a thought in the back of the head. And obviously, they're medical professionals, right? They're bound to the information and whatever.
But that's always in the back of I could see that. I mean, I could feel that right now, you know?
100%.
That doesn't mean that's truth, but there's a reality, there's a perception to that, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And I could see honestly how within your specific line of work, not having an outlet to be able to speak about those difficult cases, how that could actually affect your performance within future cases, right? Mm-hmm. Because if that's pulling on you and that's a weight on your back that you're not able to express to someone and kind of clear your head and clear your emotions, like that I mean, your line of work is very intellect heavy. You have to be aware, you have to be on point, you have to be wise, right?
So I'll open up and I'll share an experience that we were at the pool the other day at my friend's house, and you know, he's like, hey, come over, everyone's here. I had just gotten off of work. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing anything, I'll swing by. And we're in the pool, his daughter is swimming. And like backstory, the dad is a great swimmer. That's what he loves to do. So naturally his kids love swimming, right? And that didn't come, like, two and two didn't put like together in my head. And I see the little girl swimming, and she's underwater for like 20 seconds, just swimming. But at one point she just stops and like, she's not moving. And naturally I started taking everything out of my pockets, and I was like ready to jump in. Because of that trauma that I've seen, like so many baby deaths, I've seen so many infant deaths at work, that I'm just like, this baby could have been saved, you know, if somebody was just paying attention. And right when I go to do that, she just swims up. And I realized, I was like, okay, this is crazy.
That's deep, because that kind of gave you a moment that you're like, there's something I needed to impact there, right? Yeah. There's something that like was in my subconscious that I kind of have to deal with. And that happens often, right? There's these little triggers where it's like, wait a second. I thought I was okay with that case that was a year ago, but now I see like it hit deeper than I initially thought.
Absolutely. And I think the big step is talking about it at the end of the day. Like, I actually went to the baby's dad, and I was like, yo, this just happened to me. And he was like, we kind of laughed it off, you know, and that's the initial response to it. And especially in this profession, you're just like, oh, no, man, grow up, be a man, you know, whatever.
That's kind of the camaraderie side too, though, right? Like, we kind of deal with hardship by jokes, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's that, and I always tell everybody, it's that first step of being vulnerable enough to just talk about it.
100%.
That gets you through that situation. And I'm not saying that, it helped me 100% to talk about it, right? I don't know, because I haven't been put in another situation, and we'll see when that comes, right? But, I think that me just being able to just speak to him, and then I mentioned it to my other partner, and I was just like, oh, this is what's going on. And I think that's the step in the right direction for anybody in this profession, right? We see such bad stuff on a daily basis. You go through so many traumatic incidents and so many scenes and stuff like that a regular person would never see in their lifetime.
100%.
You might be driving down the street and see a car accident, okay, a car catch on fire or something like that, or maybe you're at a grocery store and you see a robbery or a murder. That's probably going to one time in your lifetime.
But you're seeing this.
In 3 years, I've handled 190 something cases.
Wow.
Yeah. So and that doesn't even include my time on the road,
There's hardship in my experience, hardship and difficult experiences bring maturity, right?
Absolutely.
They kind of bring perspective if you allow it to, right? If
Yeah.
you learn from it and you see what's happening. But within that, there's also a challenge, right? There's also that hardship. So I congratulate you for having the awareness of knowing, like, this is something that I need to get out of me, and having, I congratulate the people around you for providing you support, because people like me are thankful to men like you and women that do what you do, that you're able to continue to keep our society safe,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Because the people that you're dealing with are the absolute worst, right? The ones that believe that it's okay to take one of God's children off of the face of the earth for whatever justification, for whatever reason, and like, that's not a power that they should hold. It's not something that's not a decision that they should make.
Correct.
So I want to shift gears a little bit. We talked about some challenges that you faced. We've talked about some motivations that you face. I really want to talk about the foundation, right? So Bleeding Blue, right? Tell us a little bit about what Bleeding Blue is. Let's say I've never heard of it before in my life.
So Bleeding Blue is a nonprofit organization we started about 1.5 years ago, and the goal is to raise money and awareness for injured and fallen law enforcement officers. And that's the easy way to just explain it, right? That's what the website says. But there's a lot of parts to it. We support officers that are injured in the line of duty, fallen in the line of duty, injured and fallen out, like off duty. We're actually doing one right now as we speak. And, lately we've realized that there's a need for mental health awareness within law enforcement. So we've established a curriculum and resources in that world as well. So we're strong and mighty, but we're young, and it's growing very fast, and getting the word out there is very important. And it's my baby.
And they say, like, the best ideas start on a napkin. Like, how did this idea come? Like, what was the driver? What was the moment? Like, how are you like, this is what needs to be done?
So we had an officer that was killed in the line of duty 2 years ago, Cesar Echeverry. He was a RIT officer, so he worked in the robbery intervention detail. And it's kind of like a jump out team for the robbery guys. And he's chasing a subject, and unfortunately gets shot and killed. The subject gets shot as well. And when something like that happens in police work, everyone finds out immediately. Officer down, officers being transported, is going to JMH. Everyone kind of just unites there. So my brother calls me immediately, and he's like, "Hey, there's a RID guy down." And my brother at the time was in RID. He was just off that day, and he's like, "Hey, I'm calling Caesar," and Caesar's not answering the phone, and it ends up being Caesar that was shot. So naturally, I start getting dressed, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to the hospital for my brother." To be there for my brother, and anybody else that's there, then it's like struggling. And I get sucked in to the homicide investigation. I'm off, I'm not working, but they saw me there was a need, and I volunteered my time. So I end up getting positioned to be by the bedside of this officer that was, still connected to medical equipment, but he passed. And the family was there, and all his friends were coming and saying their last goodbyes and stuff like that. So it was tough, and you naturally don't know what to do. And I think that this world that we live in is start a GoFundMe, start a fundraiser, start this, start that. And that's what we did. So the homicide unit ended up raising, I think, like $16,000 off of a challenge coin. In general, there was a bunch of different fundraisers going on and stuff like that. So that was that one incident. And right after that, one of our good friends was shot by his girlfriend. And he was off duty, getting ready to go to work. His girlfriend pulls up. They're in the driveway. It was a dispute. She pulls out a gun. She shoots him in the head. And thankfully, to this day, he's with us. He'll never be the same, but he's alive with the grace of God. And again, because it was off duty, the department may or may not be able to, support that family. So we raised some money for them too. And it's crazy the way that this world works. When I worked at the pharmacy, his dad was my patient. And I told his dad, I was like, hey, I just got picked up with the police department. I'm leaving. He's like, oh, bro, give me all your info. I'm gonna give it to my 2 kids. I ended up finding out that the one that got shot was my brother's partner on the road. Fast forward a year later, the other brother becomes my sergeant. So now I know this entire family.
No way.
And stemming back to when I worked in the pharmacy and I was like a nobody, And, so now it felt good to be able to give to this family that I've known for so long. And they're just, even the dad was just an amazing person at the pharmacy. Like, you go to pick up your medication at the pharmacy and you're just like, oh, it's not ready. This guy was like, okay, it's not ready, let's talk.
Yeah,
I'm on your time, Okay.
Might as well take advantage of it, right?
I'm here till, I got another 8 hours, so we're good. And, it felt good to be able to give back to that family. And I don't know if it went a long way or not, or whatever they do with the money is not my problem. If they go on a vacation with it, cool, you need it. If you use it for medical expenses, you need it. If you donate it to another charity, they need it. So to me, it didn't matter where that money went. So after those 2 incidents, we started Bleeding Blue, and I was sitting here trying to think of names, and my mom texts me, Bleeding Blue. And I was like, that's a little harsh, but it's true, we do bleed blue, right? That's the thin blue line in police work is, a sign, a symbol of unity, a symbol of sacrifice. And I think if honestly, it's the best name, so.
So mom gets the credit for the name?
Mom gets the credit.
It's funny, you mentioned like, we raise the money for the family and they do what they think they need to do and they need vacation. It's true, they need it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can understand it. I had a buddy that told me a story about when he was young. He's an older gentleman now, but when he was young, there was a man that came into a restaurant where him and his family were eating, and he would ask his dad for money. And the dad, without hesitation, took out money and gave it to him. And when they were on the car ride home, the son tells dad, like, why are you so foolish? This guy's gonna do whatever with that money. And he looks at his son, his 10-year-old son, and he says, me giving that money to that gentleman was my deal with God.
Yeah.
What he does with it is his deal with God, And I'm not saying that anybody that you give money to is gonna do anything bad with it or what the case may be. It's just like you seeing that these families need support, right? Oftentimes it's just mental support at that, right? It's like, hey, help us.
Yeah, you have a family. You just gained a larger family.
100%,
right? You may have
100%.
lost one person, and it's never going to fill that void. But it's just one of those things where it's like you want them to know that they're not alone through whatever they're going to, because now they're going to start going down this mental break of losing someone, right? And then just the outreach of support. And
it's a support system,
yeah.
man. It's a support and being there. And like, I'm proud to be sitting in this room because you saw that there was, with you, because you saw that there was a need that needed to be filled. And you're providing that. You're going the step of saying, hey, if you've been injured, if God forbid someone passed, or if you need some type of help, like you need someone to talk to, you need, a course, like we're here for you. And that's amazing, man.
I've always said that I do it because somebody's going to do it for my family, God forbid that the incident occurs, right? And in our line of work, it's not a matter of, it's more of a matter like when it's going to happen. It's not if, it's when it's going to happen. Unfortunately, that's the sad reality, right? You can be sitting at a restaurant in uniform, and we've seen it in the United States. Somebody comes out through that window and just shoots an officer. You can be responding to a domestic violence or a loud party. Actually, recently we had officers that were going to a squatter that was at the house, and it's a vacant property, and they're searching the house, and some guy comes out blasting an AK-47 and shoots 4 of them. A regular routine call. Alarm going off at this business, and you pull up to the business, you do research on the business, and you're like, Oh, they sell office supplies. You know, what the hell are they stealing from there? But somebody has a need for those items that they're breaking into this business for, and they don't want to get caught. You know, that's life or death for them. Now it becomes life or death for us. So it's just when it's going to happen to that next person. And if my day comes, if God calls me
God
up,
forbid, man.
yeah, it's you know, I've personally lived my life like I'm not scared. I'm not scared of death.
I understand.
And I'm going to live my life to the fullest. I'm going to love hard. I'm going to work hard and enjoy it, right? And I signed up for this. But in our line of work, it's a matter of when. So I always tell everybody that I talk to about the organization, just do it for my family. God forbid, right? So that's how we started, man, and it's been going great, and I love it, and I don't regret any of it. I don't sleep. These bags under my eyes are real. It's not makeup.
But you found the need. You went above and beyond. You've been relentless in your pursuit. For anybody listening, right, and for people watching this, what is a way that they can get involved with Bleeding Blue?
So on our website, it's bleedingblue.info. There's different ways to participate. It's there's a donate link right on the first page. There's a shop section where you can buy T-shirts for different fundraisers that we're hosting. So I think we have like 3 active fundraisers right now. Challenge coins, cups. You know, we got nice bucket hats now for the beach.
Nice.
Actually, they were a hit. And we host different events. You know, anything from last weekend. You know, you came out to our beer festival.
Beer festival was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
We try to target different areas that people are going to go and enjoy themselves. So if you're not a drinker, that may steer you away from going to that event, but maybe you play softball, so you'll attend the softball event. So we hit these different avenues of different events that will bring in crowds of people to fundraise. And we're all volunteers. We don't make $1 off of this, and then every once a month we get to enjoy an event.
That's awesome.
So
And that is all. And you're building a community, you know?
absolutely.
At the end of the day, you're building a community of support and love, you know, and kindness and compassion. And hopefully more people that join this community see the softer side of law enforcement, you know? They see that they're people, right? They see that they're people that are loving and caring and want to see their communities grow. And, you know, I've had the opportunity to see that with a lot of my friends. But, I think it's important to bring awareness to these things because these families, they need it. They need the love, they need the support, they need the companionship because it's hard to lose someone. I'll say it again and again. Like, I congratulate you and your team for doing this because honestly, like, you're building Miami. You know, you're making it a better place. You're making sure that people feel cared for, and that's important at the end of the day. And they're protected, right?
Yeah.
No pun intended. You know, we're a body armor company, feel protected, but it's the truth, right? Like you're putting on the armor of comfort on their family. You know, you're making sure, like, hey, we're here for you guys. That's awesome. I'm really happy that we were able to have this conversation today. Thank you for opening up and talking a little bit about your day to day.
I'm an open book. Transparency is key. This is how we relate with people. So
100%.
you put up that if you're living your life behind that body armor, it's fake, you know, and it takes companies like you guys to be able to, you know, bring us in and show the real side of us. So I definitely thank you for having us in your house.
Thank you, Simon. I appreciate you. I appreciate for your service to our community. I appreciate for the service of the service people of our community. And I'll say, you know, whatever I can do to provide support, whether it's volunteer hours or donation, whatever it is, like I'm here for you as an organization for sure.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, sir.
Thanks, bud.
Thank you.